was just a little bit of a sample Tabata workout that I have my clients go through. It's a real good one to get that heart rate going and also to get some calories burning. So, hope you're all doing great today. But anyway, it's time for my devotional today. And so, hope you're all up exercising, so you can also follow along on my devotional today. So anyway, today I'm doing the book of Esther. I don't know, this lighting here is kind of weird. So I'm going to turn off a light over here because it's kind of a little bit too bright. So I hope you're all doing good. Breathing heavy over here. Doing all that working out. But anyway. So anyway, try to get this lighting good so I could read it here. So anyway, I think I'm gonna put it on the floor because I need to rest. How's everybody doing? So you guys can do some push-ups at the same time. Anyway, put on some good music and get your workout in. But anyway, like I said, today is my not the devotion. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to be doing the book of Esther because I was going to do the devotional today because that's what I usually do. But anyway, that's okay. We can do the book of Esther. So the book of Esther is an example of God's divine guidance and care over our lives. God's sovereignty and power are seen throughout this book. Although we may question certain circumstances in our lives, we must have faith that God is in control, working through both the pleasant and difficult times so that we can serve Him effectively. Drama, power, romance, intrigue. This is the stuff which best-selling novels are made of, plus movies. But far from a modern piece of fiction, those words describe a true story lived and written centuries ago. More than entertaining reading, it is a story of the profound interplay of God's sovereignty and human will. God prepared the place and the human will. God prepared the place and the opportunity and His people. Esther and Mordecai chose to act. This is in the book of Esther, which is in the Old Testament. And she was a very godly woman, and God used her profoundly. The book of Esther begins with Queen Vashti refusing to obey an order from her husband, King Xerxes. She was subsequently banished, and the search began for a new queen. The king sent out a decree to gather together all the beautiful women in the empire and bring them into the royal harem. Esther, a beautiful young Jewish woman, was one of those chosen to be in the royal harem. And King Xerxes was so pleased with Esther that he made her his queen. Meanwhile, Mordecai, Esther's older cousin, became a government official, and during his tempter foiled an assassination plot. But the ambitious and self-serving Haman was appointed second in command in the empire. When Mordecai refused to bow in reverence to him, Haman became furious and determined to destroy Mordecai and all the Jews along with him. To accomplish his vengeful deed, Haman deceived the king and persuaded him to issue an edict condemning the Jews to death. Mordecai told Queen Esther about this edict, and she decided to risk her life to save her people. Esther asked King Xerxes and Haman to be her guests at a banquet. During the feast, the king asked Esther what she really wanted, and he promised to give her anything. Esther simply invited both men to another banquet the next day. That night, unable to sleep, the king was flipping through some records in the royal archives when he read of the assassination plot that Mordecai had thwarted. Surprised to learn that Mordecai had never been rewarded for his deed, the king asked Haman what should be done to properly thank a hero. Haman thought the king must be talking about him, and so he described a lavish reward. The king agreed, but to Haman's shock and utter humiliation, he learned that Mordecai was a person to be honored. During the second banquet, the king again asked Esther what she desired. She replied that someone had plotted to destroy her and her people, and she named Haman as the culprit. Immediately, the king sentenced Haman to die on the gallows that he had built for Mordecai. In the final act of this true-life drama, Mordecai was appointed to Haman's position, and the Jews were guaranteed protection throughout the land. To celebrate this historic occasion, the Feast of Purim was established. Because of Queen Esther's courageous act, a whole nation was saved. Seeing her God-given opportunity, she seized it. Her life made a difference. Read Esther and watch for God at work in your life. Perhaps He has prepared you to act in such a time as this. Amen. The book of Esther tells of the circumstances that were essential to the survival of God's people in Persia. These circumstances were not the result of chance, but of God's grand design. God is sovereign over every area of life. The Jews in Persia had been a minority since their portion from Judah 100 years earlier. Haman was a descendant of King Haggai, an enemy of the Jews. Lust for power and pride drove Haman to hate Mordecai. That's Esther's cousin. Haman convinced the king to kill all the Jews. On February 28th, the Jews celebrate the Feast of Purim, which symbolizes God's deliverance. Purim means lots, such as those used by Haman to set the date for the extermination of all Jews from Persia. But God overruled, using Queen Esther to intercede on behalf of the Jews. With God in charge, we can take courage. He can guide us through the circumstances we face in our lives. We should expect God to display His power in carrying out His will. As we unite our life's purposes to God's purpose, we benefit from His sovereign care. Racial hatred is always sinful. We must never condone it in any form. Every person on earth has intrinsic worth because God created mankind in His image. Therefore, God's people must stand against racism whenever and wherever it occurs. Because God is in control of history, He is never frustrated by any turn of events or action of man. He is able to save us from the evil of this world and deliver us from sin and death. Because we trust God, we are not to fear what people may do to us. Instead, we are to be confident in God's control. Esther is one of the only two books named for women. Ruth is the other one. The book is unusual in that in the original version, no name, title, or pronoun for God appears in it. This caused some church fathers to question its inclusion in the canon, but God's presence is clear throughout the book. So even though you may not in your life feel God's presence in your life, He is. God bless you. And make sure you get your workout in.